Well, okay, so transitioning to kind of the next generation of
Mhm.
creators, social managers, whoever it might be, um, on their path to, one day getting to where you are, what would be one thing that you wish you knew back when you started to kind of get things going for you?
Yeah. I think this is something that I started to see more like as when even when I came back to Buffalo, just like always taking advantage of any opportunity you can to connect with anybody. And I think I did like a decent amount of that in college, but started to do it even more so when I moved back to Buffalo and was working for the Bisons. Cause like even if it's someone in a completely different industry that you don't think relates to you, it may circle back some at some point in your career. Like not even just like as far as getting a job goes, but like relatedly to things you're doing in your work. So just like making those connections and keeping them and keeping up with people. I think that's the beauty of social media, like LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, being able to connect with people like we have and like you get to see what people are up to and who they are and what they're doing. And stay in touch with them, not only just about their career, but also like personally, like Amy Keene, who I know you're gonna have on, like an amazing human. And like thanks to social media, like I get to see so much of her life and keep up with her and like am not in touch with her as much as like I would like to be on like a day-to-day basis, and I don't see her like almost ever anymore. But I think that's something that I think just is so valuable in the world of social media now, like as you're getting started, the next generation is getting started in their career, and like making sure you maintain those relationships and like don't burn bridges, like even if it may feel like it's gonna like you rip it off and it makes you feel good in the moment, it may come back to bite you in the future. So I think never burning those bridges and maintaining those connections, especially like we said at the start, like how small of a community, especially like social media and sports is. Everybody's connected to everybody some way somehow, so maintaining those connections and not burning those bridges is important on both ends of it.
For sure. Yeah, and I mean like it's funny the longer I'm in the industry and the more kind of leadership roles I have, I can look back and see like I didn't really handle some things as well as I probably should have,
Yeah,
but
we all have those things.
yeah, but it's like
We
but that
learn
goes
from it.
with yeah, and that
Yeah.
goes with what you're saying is like you're building these relationships like just know, you know, you've gotten through 100% of the things that have happened to you in this world. So like
Mhm,
just know that no matter what it is, it's not make or break. Like it's not
mhm.
the end of the line. Like you have to take your stand and you will like it's always worth, and trust me, I can say this from experience, like it's worth talking it out, seeing the other person's point of view. Like you said,
Yes.
like it all goes back at the end of the day is like we're all people, like players, influencers, us like working together. Like everyone is a person and they have,
Mhm.
things that they're going through outside of work or
Yeah.
points of view or ways of doing things that have been shaped by their experiences and their journey. So like giving people the benefit of the doubt is something that
Mhm.
I've been trying to do a lot better at in my more
Yeah.
senior years. Where it's like you never know what anyone's going through on a daily basis, and giving them that that grace that maybe
Mhm.
you wouldn't have in the past. Like just that would be, that's always something I go back to.
Yeah. I think admitting fault too and recognizing that like failure isn't so bad sometimes. Like I hold myself to such a high standard. And this is something like Anna and I had talked about when Anna was my manager. Like just like it's okay to like fail sometimes because you learn from it then. But I think sometimes I have like such a fear of failure, right? And then like it's okay when things don't go how you expected them to, or if you made a mistake and something didn't go the way you wanted it to, like admitting it and talking about it and learning from it. And luckily, like I've been like so blessed to have amazing managers throughout my career who have like encouraged, like not encouraged making mistakes, but encouraged like, we're admitting it and working through it and not getting like, you know, in trouble for like, you know what I mean? It's just like it's been cool to like have managers who like create that space where you're able to grow
For
and
sure.
flourish.
Well, yeah, I mean, like if there's a perfect person who has never made a mistake in our industry, I would love to meet them
Me
because
too.
like they they are the one unicorn in this industry. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
like that's one of my favorite quotes is I forget who I stole it from, but it was like uh don't be afraid to suck at something new today. It's
Yeah.
like it's okay to not know the answers and it's okay to try stuff. I mean, like, threads became a thing in the middle of
Mhm.
our season and it's like there is no like threads doesn't know what they want the platform to be. How are we
No.
supposed to know what to do? And it's like the
Yeah.
only way you can learn is by trying, messing up, trying again, messing up again,
Yes.
and keep getting up and seeing what happens.
And how the platforms, even like as new platforms are introduced, but how the platforms change so quickly too. Like sometimes you have to like rework your whole entire strategy on the fly because Meta or X or TikTok decided to like flip what the algorithm is doing. And it's like, all right, here we go. Buckle up. We're gonna put all this stock in this now.
Yeah, and that's like that's the blessing and the curse of this industry is like
Hmm.
no 2 days are alike. And that
Right.
goes for like what's happening with your team, what's going on in the world, what's going on with these
Yes.
platforms. Like it's always, if you are not learning and trying to keep up, you're going to fall behind so fast.
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
It's true.
one of the big like the biggest thing and it's always interesting to hear how people got into the industry because it's kind
Hmm.
of like, my journey was very similar to yours at the beginning where it's like I didn't know what I wanted to do in college. Like I went to play hockey and it was like I knew I wasn't going to the NHL, so I had 4 years to figure it out. And so once I got to, I think it was my sophomore year, I had a communication class and I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is the merging of the athletic side and the creative side that I love. Let's go for it. But then
Yeah.
and I like that you said it was like a marketable degree because
Yes.
that's basically what I was trying to do was like, I need to open as many doors as possible. Cause even with
Yeah.
this degree, I have no idea what I'm going to do. And like,
Yes. That's
it just,
exactly how I felt.
yeah, and so like so then it just kind of like it happened and thank the Lord it did, but like what would be I guess what would be your advice to someone like how do you stand out in this process? How do you prepare yourself for, that opportunity to get your foot in the door
Hmm.
um as they're going through?
I think showing like that you aren't afraid to do anything because I think especially, I mean, starting in minor league baseball, like I was a special events coordinator in Arkansas. I did not study hospitality. Like I was like, and I could have just like poo-pooed that, and been like, that's not what I want to do. But I like my dad was like, you have your car and your stuff. Like, and thankfully, like I was like privileged enough to have the means to move to a different state 17 hours away for a role. But like had the opportunity to do that. But I think standing up and asking for things that you want too. So like even if it's not in the job description, like it's okay to ask and worst comes to worst, they say no, but like it's not the worst thing at the end of the day out of in the grand scheme of things. So social media was not a part of my job description when I accepted the role in Arkansas. And I asked the director of public relations who was running social, like if I could help with it. And he was like, sure. Like he was pumped. And it obviously you have to do all your other stuff that is a part of your day to day, like making sure that's all covered. But that's really where I got like some great experience. So I think like looking outside the box at potential opportunities that you have. Because too, I think some of like the best people I've worked with, like they'll like stand up and ask for like whether it's a seat at the table or an opportunity to do something else, or even just like putting it out there to your manager, supervisor, whoever it may be, like I want to do more of this, even if it's like a broad blanket statement or something specific, if you have something specific. Because if you don't ask or like tell like this is what I want to do, like they're not, your manager's not a mind reader. So I think that's a really good thing. And like standing out when you're breaking in, like that goes a long way when you see that, especially like with interns that we have who like do the extra mile and like ask about like taking on more and like owning things. So
Yeah.
I
No,
think that really stands out.
yeah, and I mean you nailed it. It's like you get no opportunity that you don't ask for, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's you can't just as a manager or a director, like in my leadership roles, like
Mm-hmm.
like I barely have enough time to do my job, let alone try and figure out other things for everyone else to do. So it's
Yeah.
like when someone comes up and is like, "Hey, I had a really great idea. I'd love to do this." It's like,
Mhm.
yeah, let's
Okay.
go. Like,
Yeah.
but and it goes even further into like when you're coming up with these ideas and opportunities and what you want to do, have a plan. Because
Mhm.
if again, like the worst thing I could say is no, but a slightly above worst thing is if they say yes and you have no idea what the
Yes.
next step is.
That's a
Like,
really good point. Yeah.
so it's like if you're saying, "Hey, I would really love to I'd love to take over and run our Snapchat account." It's like, "Okay,
Mhm.
great. What's your plan for it?" If you don't have one, it's like, "Okay, well now go
Yeah.
back and develop your plan and then come back and tell me again and let's see what happens." So it's like
Yeah.
it's always, I mean, it goes back to what we talked about with team up and planning. It's like
Yeah.
knowing not only like here's the big shiny idea and what I want to do, but like
Mhm.
how do I make it happen? Because like
Yeah.
even like using this podcast as an example, like this is something I've been wanting to do for 5 years probably, but like it was never like, okay, yeah, I want to do a podcast. Well, what about? Well, I mean, social media. Oh, awesome. Like that's never been done. Like good idea. Like now what? So like then it
Building
goes
it
into
out.
yeah.
And
So then
being
it's like
ready for the yes, like if it's a manager situation, like you said, having that plan in place.
yes, don't anticipate the no, but
Right.
plan for the yes, because that's
Yeah.
that's so important.
Yeah.
All right. So my last question again is very much directed at kind of the next generation, but how is as people in the industry currently, how can we make this industry better for those who are going to come after us?
Yeah. That's a great question. I think giving back, like even in something like what you're doing, like and putting this information out there for people to learn that want to break in, or even other people within our industry, like it may be for them. But I think giving back in like I get a lot of people that'll reach out like that are in college and like want to do an informational interview for a whether it's for a project or they're just like reaching out to connect. I try to say yes to as much of that as possible because there were so many people that did that for me. I know this isn't like groundbreaking, but I think that's something that's gonna leave it better than we found it. Like if we continue like shepherding like the next generation in. I think also like when it comes to social media and mental health, we talked about like our department's growing, like prioritizing that as like managers of people too, like making sure like people are taking care of people, is really important. I think like making it a better place and setting boundaries and expressing like what you need, but also making it a place where people, it's like an open environment where you can talk about that and we talked about it like when you were taking your role with the Pirates, like what that looks like for you and your family, um, is really important to make sure like you're doing what's best for you, like mentally too. I think obviously the conversation around mental health has grown like so much over the last few years, and is really cool to see. But I think continuing to drive that narrative, especially in social media, because we're like on all the time and connected to so many hundreds of thousands of people, like making sure that is a conversation that is had and is continued to be had within our industry is really important.